The conference room aboard the Eternal Dominion was filled with the highest commanders of the Kralaxian Empire. Their scales gleamed under the harsh lighting, and their 4 eyes studied the holographic display that floated in the center of the chamber. Commander Vexthor stood before them, his claws tapping nervously against the control panel. "This is the species called humanity," Vexthor said, gesturing toward the image. It showed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. They have spread to 12 worlds in their local system. Our scouts report they achieved faster-than-light travel only 30 cycles ago. Grand Admiral Zarketh leaned forward in his throne. He was the largest Krylaxian in the room, his battle scars telling stories of 40 conquered worlds. 30 cycles? They are infants playing with fire. What threat could they possibly pose? Vexthor hesitated. "My lord, the scouts have reported unusual behavior. These humans do not follow standard military doctrine. They adapt quickly. They use weapons in ways we have never seen before. I recommend caution." The War Council erupted in hissing laughter. General Krixval slammed his fist on the table. "Caution? We are the Krylaxian Empire. We have crushed civilizations that had traveled the stars for thousands of cycles. These humans are nothing." Zarketh raised his hand and the room fell silent. "Vexthor, I respect your caution, but it is misplaced. The Empire has a perfect record. 47 systems have fallen before our might. This will be 48. He stood, his massive frame casting a shadow across the hologram. "Prepare the Armada. 300 warships. We will show these humans the price of existing in space that belongs to the Empire." Vexthor bowed his head. "As you command, my lord." On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, a destroyer that had seen better days. The ship was old, with patches covering hull breaches from previous battles with pirates and raiders. Jake was a tall man with short brown hair and tired eyes that had seen too much combat. He was drinking coffee from a metal cup when the emergency alarm blared. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from New Horizon Colony," his communications officer said, her voice tight with worry. Jake set down his cup. "Put it through." The voice that came through was broken by static. "This is New Horizon. Under attack. Unknown vessels. 300 ships. Requesting immediate assistance." The bridge went silent. 300 ships? That was more firepower than the entire Earth Defense Fleet combined. Jake felt his stomach drop. "Get me Admiral Grant, now." Within minutes, every ship in the human fleet was on high alert. Admiral Lisa Grant appeared on the main screen. She was a woman in her 50s with gray hair pulled back tight and a face that showed no emotion. "Captain Morrison, I've heard the report. We're gathering every available ship. Get to New Horizon as fast as you can." "Admiral, 300 ships. We have maybe 80 vessels that can fight. This is suicide." Lisa's expression didn't change. "Captain, there are 40,000 civilians on New Horizon. We don't leave our people behind." "Move out," Jake nodded. "Yes, ma'am." He turned to his crew. "You heard the Admiral. Set course for New Horizon. Maximum speed." The Krylaxian fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near New Horizon like a swarm of metal insects. Their ships were massive, each one larger than anything humans had built. They moved in perfect formation, a display of military precision that had terrified countless species before. Grand Admiral Zarketh watched from his command throne as his fleet surrounded the colony. The human settlement was built on a rocky moon, with defensive platforms orbiting overhead. It looked pathetic compared to his armada. "Open a channel," Zarketh commanded. "Let them hear the voice of their conqueror." On New Horizon, Colonial Administrator Amy Stevens stood in the command center, looking at the alien fleet on her screens. She was a young woman who had never expected to face war. She had come to New Horizon to build homes and farms, not to fight aliens. Her hands shook as she activated the communication system. "This is Amy Stevens, Administrator of New Horizon Colony." "What do you want?" Zarketh's voice boomed through the speakers. "I am Grand Admiral Zarketh of the Krylaxian Empire. You will surrender immediately. You will abandon your colony and submit to our rule. You have one standard time unit to comply. If you refuse, we will destroy everything." Amy looked around the command center. Her staff stared at her, waiting for an answer. She thought about the families sleeping in their homes, the children in the schools, the farmers in the fields. She thought about everything they had built here. She pressed the button and spoke clearly. "No?" Zarketh blinked all 4 eyes in surprise. "What did you say?" "I said no. This is our home. We will not surrender it. Not to you. Not to anyone. The Krylaxian admiral leaned back in his throne. In all his campaigns, no one had ever refused his ultimatum so quickly. Most species begged for mercy or tried to negotiate. This human just said no. Then you have chosen death, Zarketh said. Destroy the defensive platforms. Show them the cost of defiance. The Krylaxian fleet opened fire. Beams of energy lanced through space, striking the orbital platforms. But the platforms didn't explode as expected. Their shields held, and they returned fire with surprising accuracy. On New Horizon, Amy activated the evacuation protocol. Get everyone to the transport ships. Move, move, move! The colony erupted into controlled chaos. Families ran toward the landing pads. Soldiers took positions at the defensive batteries. And above them, the battle began in earnest. Lieutenant Ben Carter sat in the cockpit of his fighter, launching from the main hangar. 20 other fighters followed him into space. They were small, barely larger than atmospheric craft. The Krylaxians probably thought they were insects. All fighters, this is Carter. Remember your training. Hit them fast, hit them hard, and don't stop moving. For New Horizon, the fighters screamed toward the massive alien fleet. Ben's heart pounded in his chest. He had never been so scared in his life. But he had a job to do. He armed his missiles and picked his target. The battle for New Horizon had begun, and humanity would show the galaxy that they were not prey. They were predators. The space around New Horizon lit up with weapons fire. The Krylaxian ships launched their plasma cannons, expecting the small human fighters to disintegrate. Instead, the fighters scattered in every direction, moving in patterns that seemed random but were carefully calculated. Lieutenant Ben Carter pulled his fighter into a sharp turn that would have killed a Krylaxian pilot. The extra gravity pressed him into his seat, but his suit compensated. He lined up a shot on a cruiser's engine port and fired 2 missiles. They struck home and the engine exploded in a brilliant flash. That's one, Ben said over the radio. Who's keeping score? Commander Kelly Brooks laughed in her cockpit. She was diving between 2 Krylaxian destroyers, firing her cannons at their communication arrays. I'm at 2, Carter. Try to keep up. On the Eternal Dominion, Grand Admiral Zarketh watched in growing anger as his ships took damage. How are these primitive craft penetrating our shields? His tactical officer studied the readings. They're not, my lord. They're targeting specific weak points. Hull junctions, exhaust ports, sensor arrays. They know exactly where to hit us. Impossible. We've never fought these humans before. How could they know our ship designs? What Zarketh didn't know was that humanity had been watching. For 3 years, they had tracked Krylaxian conquest across the galaxy. They had studied every battle recording they could find. They had analyzed ship designs, tactics, and weaknesses. When the aliens came to human space, humanity was ready. The defensive platforms around New Horizon were equipped with weapons designed specifically to counter Krylaxian shields. Human engineers had worked day and night to create pulse weapons that operated on frequencies the aliens couldn't block. Now those weapons were tearing through the Krylaxian formation. Commander Vexthor appeared on Zarketh's screen. My lord, we've lost 12 ships. I recommend we pull back and reassess. Never, Zarketh roared. All ships concentrate fire on that colony. Burn it to ash. The Krylaxian fleet shifted its formation, bringing their heavy weapons to bear on the moon below. Amy Stevens watched from the command center as the first bombardment began. Explosions rocked the surface, destroying buildings and farms. But the evacuation was nearly complete. Most of the civilians were already on transport ships heading away from the battle. All personnel, fall back to the final transport. Amy ordered. We've done all we can. But one person had no intention of falling back. Station Commander Greg Foster stood on the bridge of the Orbital Defense Station Liberty. It was the largest platform in the system, and it was heavily damaged. Half the crew was already evacuated, but Greg had stayed behind with a skeleton team. Sir, we need to abandon the station, his engineer said. The Krylaxians are targeting us. We'll be destroyed in minutes. Greg looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet was moving into a tight formation to bombard the colony. They were bunched together, focused on destruction. It was the kind of tactical mistake that could be exploited. Get everyone off the station except for me, Greg said quietly. I'll handle the rest. Sir, what are you planning? Greg smiled, but there was no humor in it. Something they'll never forget. The engineer started to protest, but Greg cut him off. That's an order. Go now. 5 minutes later, Greg Foster was alone on the Liberty. The station was dying around him, fires burning in the corridors and systems failing. But the engine still worked, and the navigation computer still responded to his commands. He entered a new course and locked it in. Then he activated the communication system one last time. "This is Commander Greg Foster of the Liberty. To any humans listening, make them pay for every inch. To the Krylaxians, see you in hell." The Liberty's engines roared to life. The massive station began moving slowly at first, then faster. It accelerated toward the Krylaxian fleet like a meteor made of metal and fire. On the Eternal Dominion, alarms blared. "My lord, the human station is on a collision course." Zarketh stared at the screen in disbelief. They wouldn't. No one would sacrifice themselves like that. But Greg Foster did. The Liberty struck the heart of the Krylaxian formation at tremendous speed. The impact was catastrophic. The station's reactor exploded on contact, triggering a chain reaction that tore through 30 alien ships. The shockwave damaged dozens more. In a single moment, the invincible Krylaxian armada lost a tenth of its strength. The remaining human fighters used the chaos to strike again. Ben Carter led his squadron through the debris field, picking off damaged ships. Kelly Brooks coordinated with the remaining defense platforms to create crossfire zones that the aliens couldn't escape. When the battle finally ended, New Horizon was burning. The colony was destroyed, its buildings reduced to rubble, but the transport ships had escaped. 40,000 civilians were safe heading back toward Earth, and the Krylaxian fleet had paid a terrible price. Grand Admiral Zarketh stood in the ruins of his bridge. Emergency lights flickered around him. Damage reports scrolled across his screens. 42 ships destroyed or disabled, hundreds of warriors dead, and the humans had escaped. "My lord," Vexthor said carefully, "perhaps we should reconsider our approach. These humans fight differently than any species we've encountered." Zarketh's claws dug into his throne. "No, we are Krylaxian. We do not retreat. We do not reconsider. We advance and we conquer. Prepare the fleet to move deeper into human space. We will crush them completely." But in his heart, something had changed. For the first time in his long military career, Grand Admiral Zarketh felt doubt. These humans had cost him more ships in one battle than he had lost in 10 campaigns. They fought with a desperation and creativity that was unsettling. On the transport ship carrying New Horizons refugees, Amy Stevens stood at a window, looking back at her former home. Tears ran down her face as she watched the colony burn, but she was alive. Her people were alive, and the aliens had learned an important lesson. Humanity would not surrender. They would not bow. They would fight for every planet, every moon, every inch of space. And they would make their enemies pay a price so high that victory would taste like defeat. The transport ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, carrying the survivors toward Earth. Behind them, the Krylaxian fleet began its advance. The war had truly begun. Captain Jake Morrison arrived at New Horizons 6 hours too late. His destroyer dropped out of faster-than-light travel to find a debris field and a destroyed colony. He stood on the bridge, hands clenched into fists, as his crew surveyed the damage. "Captain, we're picking up Krylaxian energy signatures heading toward the inner colonies," his sensor officer reported. Jake took a deep breath. "Send a message to Admiral Grant. Tell her the enemy is advancing. And tell her we're going hunting." The Krylaxian fleet moved through human space like a slow-moving storm. Grand Admiral Zarketh expected to find fortified worlds and desperate last stands. Instead, he found silence. The human colonies they passed were abandoned, their populations evacuated. No fleets came to challenge them. No defensive platforms opened fire. "This is strange," Vexthor said, studying the tactical display. "They're giving up their territory without a fight." Zarketh nodded slowly. "They're cowards. They saw what happened at New Horizon and they're running." "Good. Let them run all the way back to their homeworld. We'll end this quickly." But Vexthor wasn't convinced. His warrior instincts told him something was wrong. The humans had fought so fiercely at New Horizon. Why would they abandon everything now? He got his answer 3 days later. The Krylaxian supply convoy was traveling through an asteroid field when the first ship exploded. Then the second. Then the third. By the time the convoy realized they were under attack, half their ships were gone. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his hiding spot behind a large asteroid. The USS Defiance was powered down to minimal systems, invisible to enemy sensors. His crew had spent 2 days planting mines throughout the asteroid field, waiting for the perfect moment. All ships, open fire, Jake ordered. 6 human destroyers appeared from behind asteroids and debris. They fired their weapons at point-blank range, then vanished back into cover before the Kralaxians could respond. In less than 5 minutes, the entire convoy was destroyed. That's for New Horizon, Jake said quietly. This pattern repeated across human space. The Kralaxians couldn't move without being attacked. Every asteroid field was a trap. Every debris cloud hid human ships. Every empty sector became a killing ground. Engineer specialist Ryan Palmer had developed a new tactic. He took old mining ships and modified them with military-grade weapons. These ships looked like civilian craft on sensors, so the Kralaxians ignored them. By the time they realized their mistake, it was too late. Ryan sat in the modified mining ship Prospector, watching a Kralaxian cruiser pass by. "Just a little closer," he whispered. When the alien ship was in range, he activated the mining laser they had modified. The beam cut through the cruiser's shield generator, and the ship's defenses collapsed. 3 fighters appeared and destroyed the helpless vessel in seconds. Dr. Claire Watson worked in a secret facility deep underground on Mars. She was a scientist who specialized in alien technology. The humans had recovered Kralaxian communication equipment from destroyed ships, and Claire had been studying it for weeks. "I've found something," she told Admiral Lisa Grant over a secure channel. "The Kralaxians use a centralized command network. Every ship is connected to their flagship. If we can disrupt that network, their entire fleet will lose coordination." Lisa leaned forward. "Can you build something to do that?" Claire smiled. "Already working on it. Give me 2 weeks." Meanwhile, the psychological warfare had begun. The humans had broken into the Kralaxian communication network. They broadcast recordings of destroyed alien ships on all frequencies. They sent false orders that created confusion. They even played music that was designed to be disturbing to Kralaxian hearing. Commander Kelly Brooks sat in her fighter, broadcasting a message she had recorded. "Attention, Kralaxian forces. You came to our space thinking we were weak. You thought you could take our homes? But every day we're destroying more of your ships. Every day you're farther from home. How many of you will actually return?" On the Eternal Dominion, the effect was devastating. Kralaxian warriors were bred for direct combat, for honorable battle. They didn't understand guerrilla warfare. They didn't know how to fight an enemy they couldn't see. Ship captains began reporting strange problems. Equipment would fail for no reason. Sensors would give false readings. Food supplies would spoil. The humans had infiltrated their systems and were causing havoc from within. Zarketh called an emergency meeting of his commanders. "This is unacceptable. We are Kralaxian warriors, not scared children. We will find these humans and crush them." "My lord," one captain said hesitantly, "we've lost 70 ships since New Horizon. Our supply lines are cut. We're receiving reports of system failures across the fleet. Perhaps we should consolidate our forces." Zarketh's eyes blazed with anger. "Consolidate? You mean retreat?" "I mean survive, my lord. These humans fight like nothing we've ever encountered. They don't follow any rules of warfare. They strike from nowhere and disappear. They turn our own technology against us. We need a new strategy." Zarketh stood and walked to the window, looking out at his fleet. It was still impressive, still powerful, but it was smaller now, and for the first time he saw fear in his warriors' eyes. "We will not retreat," he said finally. "We will advance to their homeworld. We will show them that the Kralaxian Empire cannot be defeated by tricks and cowardice. Prepare the fleet to move to Earth." Back on Earth, Admiral Lisa Grant stood in the command center coordinating the defense. Every report that came in told her the same thing. The plan was working. The aliens were being bled dry, ship by ship, day by day. "How many ships do they have left?" she asked. "Latest count is 208, an officer replied. "We've destroyed or disabled 92 Kralaxian vessels with minimal losses on our side." Lisa nodded. "Good, but it's not enough. When they reach Earth, they'll still outnumber us 2-1. We need to be ready for the final battle." Captain Jake Morrison had been reassigned to Earth's defense. He stood on the bridge of the Defiance watching as more ships arrived. Military vessels from every human colony, cargo ships that had been converted to carry weapons. Even some old museum ships that had been brought back into service. It wasn't pretty, but it would have to be enough. Lieutenant Ben Carter landed his fighter on the carrier USS Valiant. He was exhausted, having flown 5 missions in 3 days. But when he climbed out of his cockpit, he was smiling. His fighter had Kralaxian kill marks painted on the side. 12 ships destroyed. Not bad, Carter, Kelly Brooks said, walking up to him. Her fighter had 15 marks. Think you can keep up when the real fight starts? Ben laughed. Earth orbit? That's going to be the biggest battle in human history. I wouldn't miss it for anything. They looked up at the sky, knowing that somewhere out there the Kralaxian fleet was coming. Coming for their home. Coming for their families. Coming to destroy everything humanity had built. But they also knew something the aliens didn't. They knew that humans were at their most dangerous when they were protecting their home. They knew that every person on Earth was ready to fight. They knew that this wouldn't be a battle of honor or glory. It would be a battle of survival. And humans were very good at surviving. Grand Admiral Zarketh stood on his bridge plotting the final jump to Earth's solar system. His fleet was damaged, his warriors were scared, and his perfect record was shattered. But he was still Kralaxian. He would still conquer. Prepare for faster-than-light travel, he ordered.
Destination Earth, we end this war now.
The Kralaxian fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 208 warships spread across space, their weapons powered and ready. Grand Admiral Zarketh looked at the blue planet in the distance and felt a mixture of emotions. Relief that the campaign was nearly over, anger at the losses he had suffered, and something else, something he didn't want to acknowledge. Fear. Scan for enemy vessels, he ordered. His tactical officer worked at his station for several minutes before looking up with confusion. My lord, I'm detecting hundreds of human ships. Maybe thousands. They're everywhere. Zarketh moved to the display. What he saw made his blood run cold. The humans hadn't retreated. They had gathered every ship they owned. Military destroyers and carriers, yes, but also cargo haulers with weapons welded to their hulls. Mining ships carrying missiles. Passenger liners converted into makeshift warships. Even ancient vessels from museums brought back into service for one final battle. They're insane, Vexthor whispered. Half those ships aren't even combat-rated. They'll be destroyed in minutes. But Zarketh understood. These humans weren't trying to win a tactical victory. They were making a statement. This was their home, and they would defend it with everything they had. Every man, woman, and child who could fly a ship was out there, ready to fight. On the carrier USS Valiant, Admiral Lisa Grant addressed the entire human fleet. Her face appeared on every screen, her voice carried to every ship. She was calm, almost serene. This is it. The moment we've been preparing for. That alien fleet came to our space thinking we were easy prey. They destroyed New Horizon. They've been hunting us for weeks. But every step they took toward Earth, we made them pay. Now they're here, and we're going to finish what they started. She paused, looking directly into the camera. I won't lie to you. Many of us won't survive today. But our families are on that planet behind us. Our homes, our future. We fight not for glory or honor. We fight because we have no choice. We fight because we're human, and humans don't give up. All ships prepare for battle. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance, his crew at their stations. They had painted the ship with tally marks, one for each Kralaxian vessel they had destroyed or damaged. There were 37 marks. Jake hoped they would add more before the day was done. All weapons charged and ready, Captain, his weapons officer reported. Jake nodded. Good. Today we show these aliens what happens when they threaten Earth. All crew, battle stations. The Kralaxian fleet began its advance. They moved in their traditional formation, ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Their weapons powered up, energy signatures blazing across every scanner. The human fleet didn't wait. They charged forward in a chaotic swarm. No formation, no coordination. Just hundreds of ships flying at maximum speed toward the enemy. It looked like madness, but there was method to it. The humans knew they couldn't match the Kralaxians in a traditional fleet battle, so they didn't try. The space between the two fleets erupted in weapons fire. Missiles and energy beams crossed paths, creating a deadly light show. Ships on both sides exploded. The noise of battle filled every communication channel. Lieutenant Ben Carter led his fighter squadron into the heart of the enemy formation. 20 fighters followed him, weaving between capital ships. They weren't trying to destroy the big vessels. They were targeting sensors, weapon arrays, communication equipment. Death by 1,000 cuts. Stay mobile, Ben called over the radio. Don't give them a target they can hit. A Kralaxian destroyer exploded to his left, torn apart by 3 human cruisers firing in concert. But a human cargo hauler also went down, its improvised armor no match for alien weapons. Commander Kelly Brooks coordinated the carrier fighter wings. She sat in the command center of the USS Valiant, watching 100 different tactical displays at once. Third wing, the enemy cruiser at coordinate 773 is damaged. Finish it. Fifth wing, protect those cargo ships on the flank. On the Eternal Dominion, chaos reigned. Zarketh tried to maintain formation, but the humans were everywhere. They swarmed his ships like insects, attacking from every angle. His heavy weapons couldn't track targets that moved so erratically. His shields were designed for big fleet battles, not dogfights. "My lord, we've lost 20 ships," Vexthor reported. "The humans are using some kind of disruption technology. Our communication network keeps failing." That was Dr. Claire Watson's device. It had taken her 2 weeks, but she had created a way to jam the Kralaxian command network. Now their ships were having trouble coordinating. Captains couldn't talk to each other. Orders from the flagship weren't getting through. The perfect Kralaxian military machine was breaking down. "Route all commands through backup channels," Zarketh ordered, "and target their command ship. If we destroy their flagship, their fleet will fall apart." But the humans had learned from studying the Kralaxians. They didn't put all their command in one place. Admiral Lisa Grant was on the Valiant, yes, but she had 3 backup commanders ready to take over if she fell. The human fleet could lose its head and keep fighting. Jake Morrison saw an opportunity. A Kralaxian battleship had been isolated from the main fleet, surrounded by human ships. "All nearby vessels, concentrate fire on that battleship. We can take it down." 10 human ships turned and fired everything they had. The alien vessel's shields collapsed and it began to break apart. But in its death throes, it fired one last shot that hit a human destroyer. Both ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The battle raged for hours. Ships burned and died on both sides. The space around Earth became a graveyard of metal and fire. But slowly, inevitably, the humans were being pushed back. They fought with everything they had, but the Kralaxians were simply too strong, too well armed. Captain Jake Morrison made a decision. He had studied the footage of what Commander Greg Foster had done at New Horizon. The man had sacrificed his station to destroy 30 alien ships. It was time for someone else to make that sacrifice. "Crew, abandon ship," Jake ordered. "Everyone to the escape pods now." His crew stared at him in shock. "Captain, what are you doing?" Jake smiled sadly. "What needs to be done, go, that's an order." His crew hesitated, but they followed orders. One by one, they evacuated the Defiance. Jake stood alone on the bridge of his ship, looking at the tactical display. He could see the Eternal Dominion in the center of the Kralaxian fleet. The flagship was heavily shielded, protected by dozens of other ships. But Jake had noticed something. The human disruption technology had created gaps in the alien formation. Small spaces where a ship could slip through if the pilot was skilled enough, or crazy enough. He activated the communication system one last time. "Morrison to all human forces. I'm making a run at their flagship. Cover me." Admiral Lisa Grant's voice came back immediately. "Morrison, don't do this. We need you." "No, Admiral. You need that flagship destroyed more. It's been an honor." Jake cut the communication and pushed the Defiance's engines to maximum power. The destroyer accelerated toward the Kralaxian fleet. Human ships moved to create a corridor, firing at any alien vessel that tried to intercept. Fighters swarmed around the Defiance, protecting it like an honor guard. On the Eternal Dominion, alarms blared. "My lord, a human destroyer is on a collision course." Zarketh stood frozen. He watched the small ship racing toward him, and he finally understood. These humans would never surrender. They would never stop fighting. They would throw themselves at their enemies until one side or the other was completely destroyed. "All weapons fire on that ship," he commanded. But it was too late. The Defiance was too fast, too well protected by other human vessels. It struck the Eternal Dominion's bridge at tremendous speed. Captain Jake Morrison had ejected from the Defiance 3 seconds before impact. His escape pod tumbled through space as his ship struck the Eternal Dominion. The explosion was massive, tearing through the flagship's bridge and command center. He had aimed for maximum damage, and he had succeeded. But Jake Morrison had lied to everyone, including himself. He hadn't planned to die today. Some small, stubborn part of him still wanted to see tomorrow. Grand Admiral Zarketh survived the impact, but barely. His command throne had protected him from the worst of the blast, but the bridge was destroyed. Half his crew was dead. Emergency systems flickered and failed around him. He pulled himself to his feet, his scaled body covered in wounds. "Status report," he gasped. Commander Vexthor stumbled through the smoke and debris. "My lord, command systems are offline. We've lost communication with the fleet. Secondary bridge is responding, but it will take time to transfer command." Zarketh looked at the ruined bridge and felt something break inside him. Not his body, but his spirit. These humans had taken his perfect fleet and torn it apart. They had shown him that all his experience, all his victories, meant nothing against an enemy that refused to follow the rules. "My lord, what are your orders?" Zarketh was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. "Signal the fleet. All ships are to withdraw to minimum safe distance and await new orders." Outside, the Kralaxian fleet began to pull back. Without their flagship's coordination, individual captains made their own decisions. Some tried to continue fighting. Others retreated immediately. The perfect military formation dissolved into chaos. The human fleet pressed their advantage. Admiral Lisa Grant watched from the Valiant as the alien ship scattered. "All forces, maintain pressure. Don't let them regroup." Lieutenant Ben Carter led his fighters in pursuit of a damaged Kralaxian cruiser. His weapons were nearly depleted, but he had enough for one more attack. He fired his last missiles and watched them impact the alien ship's engines. The cruiser went dark, drifting helplessly through space. "That's 16, Ben said, adding another mark to his mental tally. "How many does that make for the whole fleet?" Commander Kelly Brooks had been counting. "We've destroyed or disabled 93 alien ships. 71 are retreating. The rest are dead in space or trying to repair damage." On the Eternal Dominion secondary bridge, Zarketh took command. He looked at the tactical display and saw the truth he had been denying for weeks. His fleet was broken. His warriors were demoralized, and the humans were still fighting with undiminished fury. "My lord," Vexthor said carefully, "we must withdraw. If we stay, they will destroy us completely." For the first time in his military career, Grand Admiral Zarketh considered retreat. The word tasted like poison, but it was also the truth. If he stayed, every ship under his command would die here. The Kralaxian Empire would lose its most powerful fleet, and for what? To conquer one stubborn species? But before he could give the order, another alarm sounded. "My lord, a small human vessel is approaching. It's hailing us." Zarketh blinked in surprise. "A human wants to talk now?" "Put them on screen." Jake Morrison appeared on the display. He was in his escape pod, badly bruised but alive. Behind him, through the pod's window, the battle still raged. "Grand Admiral Zarketh, I presume?" "I am Zarketh." "You are the one who destroyed my bridge?" Jake nodded. "I am, and I'm sorry about that, but you didn't leave us much choice. You came to our space. You destroyed our colony. You threatened our home. We are Kralaxian. Conquest is our nature. We have defeated 47 civilizations. And now you've met your 48th, Jake said. But here's the thing, Admiral. We don't want to destroy you. We just want you to leave. Take your remaining ships and go home. Tell your empire that humanity is not prey. We're not a species you can conquer." Zarketh felt anger rise in him. "You dare to give me terms? We still have 70 warships. We can still fight." "Yes, you can. And we'll destroy every single one of them, just like we destroyed the first 138. Jake's expression was hard. "I've studied your species, Admiral. You value honor and strength. So let me be clear. There is no honor in dying for a war you've already lost. There is no strength in sacrificing your warriors for pride. Your fleet came here thinking we were weak. We've proven otherwise. Now prove that you're wise enough to accept it." The communication ended. Zarketh stood in silence, staring at the blank screen. Around him, his officers waited for orders. The bridge was quiet except for the sound of damaged systems and distant weapons fire. Finally, Vexthor spoke. "He's right, my lord. We've lost this war, but we can save our warriors. We can return home with the knowledge we've gained. The Empire needs to know about these humans." Zarketh closed all four eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them again, something had changed. The pride, the arrogance, the certainty were gone. In their place was something he had never felt before, respect for an enemy. "Signal all ships," he said slowly. "We are withdrawing. Any vessel too damaged to jump to faster than light travel will be towed. We leave no one behind." "Yes, my lord." Zarketh looked at the tactical display one last time, at the blue planet called Earth, and sent a message to the humans. "Tell them the Kralaxian Empire acknowledges their strength. Tell them we will not return. The Kralaxian fleet began its retreat. Damaged ships were secured by tow lines. Wounded warriors were transferred to vessels that could still fly. And slowly, the great armada that had terrorized 47 star systems turned away from Earth and prepared to leave. On the Valiant, Admiral Lisa Grant received the message. She read it twice, not quite believing what she was seeing. They're actually leaving. Should we pursue? An officer asked. Lisa shook her head. No, let them go. We've made our point. She activated the fleet-wide communication. All human forces cease fire. The enemy is withdrawing. We've won. The reaction across the human fleet was immediate. Cheers erupted on every ship. Pilots who had been certain they would die today suddenly realized they would see their families again. Crews who had fought for hours collapsed in exhaustion and relief. Lieutenant Ben Carter sat in his fighter cockpit and cried. He was alive. They were all alive. And Earth was safe. Commander Kelly Brooks landed her fighter on the Valiant and was mobbed by her squadron. They hugged and laughed and shouted in celebration. The war was over and they had won. Jake Morrison's escape pod was recovered by a human rescue ship. As they brought him aboard, he looked back at the battlefield. Ships burned in the darkness of space. Thousands had died today, human and Kralaxian both. The victory had come at a terrible cost, but Earth was safe. Humanity had proven itself. And the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. 3 days later, Jake Morrison stood in a memorial garden that had been built to honor the fallen. Thousands of names were carved into black stone. He found Greg Foster's name and touched it gently. The man had sacrificed himself at New Horizon, and his action had shown humanity how to win. Admiral Lisa Grant joined him. The casualty reports are final. We lost 38 ships and 4,000 personnel. It's a heavy price, but we won, Jake said. We did, and already we're receiving messages from other species. The Kralaxians had been bullying half the galaxy. Now that everyone saw them defeated, those same species want to talk to us. Some are offering trade agreements. Others want military alliances. We're suddenly the most important species in this sector of space. Jake smiled slightly. We didn't ask for that. No, but we earned it. What are you going to do now, Captain? The military wants to promote you. Make you an admiral. I think I'll decline. I've had enough of war for a while. Maybe I'll take that teaching position at the academy. Train the next generation of pilots. Lisa nodded. That's probably wise. Someone needs to teach them how to fight like you did. They stood in silence for a moment, looking at the names of the dead. Then Jake spoke quietly. Do you think the Kralaxians will come back? No, I don't think so. We broke more than their fleet. We broke their confidence. And the message will spread. Humanity is not to be threatened. We're not conquerors, but we're not victims either. We're survivors. Far across the galaxy, the remnants of the Kralaxian fleet arrived home. Grand Admiral Zarketh stood before the War Council, no longer proud and arrogant. He delivered his report honestly, holding nothing back. We sent our strongest fleet against humanity. 300 ships, the best warriors in the Empire, and none returned victorious. We underestimated them. We thought them primitive and weak. We were wrong. The War Council listened in stunned silence. Finally, one elder spoke. What do you recommend? I recommend we never go near human space again. Mark their territory as forbidden. They are not a species we can conquer. They fight with a ferocity we cannot match. They adapt faster than we can plan, and they will sacrifice everything to protect their home. The council agreed. A new law was written into Kralaxian military doctrine. Humanity was to be left alone. The species that should have been easy prey had become the predator no one wanted to face. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal. The war had changed humanity forever. They had gone into space hoping to find friends and instead found enemies. But they had proven they could survive. They had shown the galaxy that humans were not to be trifled with. And if anyone doubted it, they only needed to rem.